Right now, you are not here. Your body is sitting wherever you are. But your mind? It left the building. It's replaying a conversation from last Tuesday. Or it's already at tomorrow's meeting, rehearsing things you'll probably never say. We spend roughly 47% of our waking hours, that's from a Harvard study, thinking about something other than what's in front of us. Almost half your life. Gone. One book tried to explain why that happens, and what it costs you. And what I found inside it genuinely unsettled me. In a way I didn't expect. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle has sold over 3 million copies. It's been endorsed by Oprah Winfrey, twice. It sits on more life-changing books lists than almost anything written in the last 30 years. And yet, most people who read it either call it the most profound thing they've ever encountered, or they put it down after 40 pages and never come back. I want to show you why both reactions are completely understandable. I want to walk you through the core ideas, the ones that actually hold up, and I'm also going to flag the one claim in this book that I think you should push back on. Because a book this influential deserves more than a summary. It deserves a real conversation. Stay with me. By the end of this, you'll understand why you feel so exhausted even when nothing is technically wrong. And you'll have one tool to start changing that today. Eckhart Tolle wasn't a professor. He wasn't a trained therapist. He was, by his own account, a deeply depressed graduate student at Cambridge University in his late 20s. He describes the night that changed everything in the opening pages. He woke up at 3 a.m. in a state of absolute dread, a feeling he'd had hundreds of times before. But this time, a thought crossed his mind that stopped everything. He thought, I cannot live with myself any longer. And then he wondered, who is the I that cannot live with the self? Are they two different things? That question triggered something. He described waking up the next morning feeling completely at peace. A peace that had nothing to do with his circumstances. Everything was the same. His problems hadn't gone anywhere. But he was different. Now, you can take that story at face value, or you can hold it loosely. I'd encourage the second option. What matters is not the story of how Tolle woke up. What matters is what he built from that experience, because some of it is genuinely useful. Here is the central argument of the book, and I want you to actually sit with this rather than just letting it wash over you. Tolle says your mind has a voice. You know the one. The narrator. The thing that's been running commentary on your life since before you can remember. Most people assume that voice is them. That it's who they are. Tolle says no. He says that voice is not you, it's a function of you. And the problem is, for most of us, it has become completely out of control. It runs constantly, compulsively, like a television you can never turn off. He calls this the egoic mind. And he says it has one very specific obsession, time. The ego lives either in the past, replaying, regretting, resenting, or in the future, worrying, planning, rehearsing. It is almost never comfortable just being in the present. Because the present moment doesn't give the ego anything to do. Think about the last time you were truly absorbed in something. Completely in it. Maybe it was a conversation, or a piece of music, or physical movement, running, cooking, anything. In that moment, where was the voice? Gone. Right? That silence, Tolle says, that is who you actually are. Not the thoughts. The space in which thoughts arise. Research into what's called the default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on a task, shows that this network is associated with rumination, self-referential thinking, and mind-wandering. And high default mode activity correlates strongly with lower reported happiness and increased anxiety. In other words, the science and the philosophy are pointing at the same thing. The chattering mind, the one bouncing between past and future, is not your friend. And it is not the totality of who you are. Now here's where the book gets a little darker. And more honest. Tolle introduces a concept he calls the pain body. He describes it as the accumulated emotional pain from your past, experiences you didn't fully process, grief you didn't let through, anger you swallowed, shame you buried. He says this residue doesn't disappear. It lives in you. And at certain moments, when someone says the wrong thing, when you're tired or stressed, when a situation echoes something old, it wakes up. And suddenly you're not reacting to what's actually happening. You're reacting to everything that ever happened that felt like this. Think about the last time you had a reaction that surprised even yourself. Where the intensity didn't quite match the situation. Where you found yourself thinking afterward, why did I go that hard? That, according to Tolle, is the pain body temporarily taking over. And the antidote, the only antidote he offers, is awareness. Not analysis. Just the act of observing what's happening inside you without immediately becoming it. The moment you observe the pain body, you are no longer fully identified with it. And that gap, however small, is the beginning of freedom. The observer is not in pain. The observer simply sees. Okay, so far this is philosophy. And philosophy without practice is just entertainment. So let's talk about what Tolle actually asks you to do. The first and most foundational practice is to simply become aware of your own thinking. Not to stop thinking, that's not the goal and it's not possible. But to notice when you're thinking. To catch yourself in the middle of the mental monologue and recognize, this is thought. It is not reality. Tolle suggests a simple question you can ask at any moment: what is my next thought going to be? Just pause and wait for it. Notice what happened there? The moment you put your attention on waiting for a thought, the mind goes quiet. Even for a split second. That gap is the present moment. That gap is what the whole book is pointing at. The second tool is simpler than it sounds. Tolle says the body is always in the present moment. Your thoughts can be in 2019 or 2035, but your hands, your breath, the feeling of your feet on the floor, those are always now. When you feel yourself spiraling into future anxiety or past regret, he recommends bringing attention to the felt sense of being alive inside your physical form. Notice the aliveness in your hands. The rise and fall of your chest. This maps cleanly onto what we now know about the vagal nerve, somatic therapy, and body-based approaches to nervous system regulation, some of the most evidence-backed tools in modern psychology. The third practice, and the most misunderstood, is acceptance. Not surrender. Not passivity. Not telling yourself everything is fine when it isn't. Tolle draws a sharp line here. He says, if you can change something, change it. If you can't change it right now, then the only sane response is to stop fighting the fact of it, because the fight doesn't change the situation. It only adds suffering to the suffering. Resistance to reality, he says, is the primary source of human suffering. Not the reality itself, the resistance to it. Now, I promised you a real conversation, not just a summary. So here's where I push back. Tolle, at several points in the book, implies that planning for the future and reflecting on the past are themselves the problem. That any engagement with time is suffering. And I think that's too far. Learning from the past, genuinely processing it, integrating it, growing from it, is not the same as being trapped in it. Research in psychology consistently shows that reflective journaling, narrative therapy, and meaning-making from past experience are all associated with improved well-being and resilience. And planning for the future, with purpose and intention, not from compulsive anxiety, is a fundamentally human act. It's what allows us to build things, protect people we love, and move toward something better. The problem isn't time itself. The problem is unconscious time. The involuntary mind wandering. The loop you can't switch off. Tolle knows this, I think, but the book doesn't always say it clearly. And for readers already prone to withdrawing from the world, this framing can become a reason not to engage. So take the core insight, it's worth taking, but hold the extremes lightly. Here's where I land on the power of now, having read it twice and sat with it for a while. The central insight is real. You are not your thoughts. The compulsive narrator in your head is a function, not your identity. And the space between thoughts, the quiet awareness underneath, is something most of us have touched but few of us have learned to cultivate. The 3 practices Tolle offers are genuinely useful, and they're most useful when you treat them not as spiritual destinations but as simple attentional habits. Skills you can get better at over time, like any other skill. The parts where the book oversimplifies, where it implies all past reflection is suffering and all planning is ego, those I'd invite you to read critically. Use what fits. Set down what doesn't. Overall, this is a book worth reading. Slowly. Maybe a chapter at a time. It's not a quick-hit summary book. It's a sit-with-it book. And if even one person watching this catches themselves, just once, in the middle of an anxious thought spiral and recognizes, this is a thought, not reality, then Tolle did something that a lot of books never quite manage. He changed how you see. Next, I'm going to dig into a book that takes the opposite approach to Tolle, one that says the problem isn't your mind at all. It's your habits. And the argument it makes is harder to dismiss than you might think. If you found something useful in today's video, whether it's the pain body concept, the default mode network connection, or just a reason to finally pick up the book, there's a link in the description. And if you want to follow along as I work through the shelf, subscribing is the quietest way to do that. Take care of your mind. It's the only one you've got.